Does that still apply today?
Yes, it applies because, and that was with everything that the president says or said. That's the only part that I'm a bit jittery. Although he's not talking about 2025.
Okay.
If you listen to him carefully, he's talking about 2026 on the issue of reopening of the international and then the domestic capital market or the Eurobond market. Yeah.
Okay.
So, you see, as for the issue of borrowing, you can borrow. But when we are borrowing, and if you remember all the discussion you have about borrowing, I always say that you can borrow, but you shouldn't borrow to go and drink beer, eat wache and kinky, make fanfare about it. If you are or when you are borrowing, you borrow to invest into a productive venture or a productive sector, such that you see the returns. Okay, the returns should be able to pay for itself, the borrowing that you've done, and then end up become a revenue stream for you or a cash cow for you. But if you just borrow to consume, like what we saw, especially in 2020, for instance, with COVID, that monies were being doled out to constituency women organizers and whatnot for nothing, for no specific project, for nothing. You can't do that and expect not to have a debt overhang. Such that you won't be able to borrow, pay back your debt. That's what you do. Because if you borrow, it's like when you borrow, it means you don't have the money. And you should expect to get the money from somewhere. Because one day you have to pay the money back, isn't it? So if you don't invest the money
commercially viable,
into a viable venture, how do you expect to pay that money back? You understand? So, but the refreshing part of it is that he says those borrowings or those bonds will be for specific infrastructure projects. And I expect that those projects will be revenue generating enough to pay for themselves and become viable and revenue and stream and cash cows for the country. Like we saw with the Terminal 3, the port expansion, Ghana Gas, Project 1, or because we are going into another project, the one we saw with Ameri, for instance. All those, yes, they are viable projects that today are generating revenue. If they've not even finished paying for themselves, we know Ameri is finished paying for itself, and it's become a cash cow for Ghana. So we need more of that. So when we are going to borrow, we should have it at the back of our mind, and we should hold the president and his finance minister, very strictly, to that promise that any borrowing on the capital market will do that.
How do we finance? Because there are many capital-intensive projects.
Yes.
That may not necessarily be in the position to generate the income you need.
Yes,
to
but
pay for
if
itself.
you have, yes, I understand.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's why you need more of the economic infrastructure to offset whatever you'll be doing with the social infrastructure. So if you have enough of the economical viable projects infrastructure, they can pay off themselves. When they pay off themselves, they are not paying again. Everything that you generate from there is coming to you. So you can use it to also pay for the ones that are not paying for themselves. You get it? So let's focus more on what the president says. Let him do that. Let us hold him accountable. Let's hold his feet to the fire. That the fact that the base, again, will sound the same question again, that the base is now widening and we have a narrow top, which is giving us a more favorable debt to GDP ratio, doesn't mean that we should embark the how not to manage an economy the Baumia way or the Uforiata way. That we borrow, consume through KK and Wache parties, and then at the end of the day, we'll not be able to pay the
find
debt.
The money to pay. Albert, I hope to see you very soon to continue this discussion because there are